Or would you eat a squirrel?
Yeah. Well, actually, I have before.
What?
Wait, what? It says Mormon vegetarians.
There it is.
There it is.
The church bought it, and it goes directly to Light the World.
No,
JesusChrist.org.
By the way, I found their first flaw.
If it's written by like a guy who's trying to be scholarly and literally just make money by making a sell-all book that anyone can buy.
Red Bull is okay, but coffee is verboten. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Midnight Strike Through Mormons. I am your host, Cardon Ellis, and today I'm joined in the studio by Kwaku L. Brad Whitbeck, and back due to popular demand in a Cabela shirt. He left the Bass Pro Shops hat behind. We've got Will the Thrill Larkins. What's going on, William the Thrillium? And today we're going to be talking and analyzing, doing a deep dive into this book, The Idiot's Guide to Christianity. See what it says about Mormons. Here's a little bit of a backstory. Just recently, I ended up going to a little bit of a book sale that was happening at the public library. You'll notice there was all kinds of different books on sale for actually a deeply discounted price. And so I decided that I would pick up one, Christianity for Idiots. And so what I've done, guys, is I've taken the chapter that I found. Guess what they talk about, guys? Guess what they talk about?
The church.
Yeah, they do indeed mention Mormons.
Do they call it the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
You know what? We're going to see, because I haven't actually read this myself. Look at your guys' table. See those pieces of paper that I put on the table?
Yeah. What year was this one? What year did it come out?
I printed out the chapter on Mormons. I just looked at it enough to print it out. This was written by Jeffrey B. Webb, PhD. Gosh, I don't know what year it is. It says that there's a copyright in Australia. Oh gosh, I don't know. I'll have to find the year, but it looks pretty recent, and it's not yellowed yet, right?
Yeah.
You know, I don't see a date on it, but it looks, I mean, USA for $18.95. Books haven't cost that much for a while.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah, it
saying?
must be recent.
So yeah, let's see what our friends over at the Idiot's Guide to Christianity have to say about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You guys ready?
Let's see it.
Okay, so first off, what do you guys think they'll get right or get wrong? What are you curious? What would you be curious to see?
If this is written by like a pastor and he's like an unfriendly pastor, it's going to be a mean take. If it's written by like a guy who's trying to be scholarly and literally just make money by making a sell-all book that anyone can buy,
Yeah.
it's not going to be mean. He's going to have a couple of things that are inaccurate, but it's going to be like a pretty good attempt, and we'll be like, it's fine.
Okay.
I have my money on that one though. That's not. It's going to be like a guy trying to do a sell-all. So it's like,
Yeah. I feel like they're going to get right, like, obviously, the Book of Mormon and how it's like a comparable scripture to the Bible. I don't know if they'll end up twisting that in some way or not.
The reason why I don't think it's going to be really an anti thing is because we've never heard of this book, and if we've talked to enough evangelical antis where we would have come across this eventually. I mean already, so I don't think it's gonna be. I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't think it's gonna be an anti book.
Yeah, I think Quaker's right. This is going to be pretty like run of the mill, trying to get it right. Maybe missing the mark in one or two places. Probably with like misunderstanding how prophets work. I bet is going to be in there. And then let's see, what's another common one?
Are you so jaded? You're just like, all these cops. This is the reason why I picked it up.
They'll have a word of wisdom issue for sure. They'll be like, yeah, Mormons like can't drink coffee, they can't smoke tobacco or eat chocolate. Like, and it's like, wait, what? The last one, where'd that come from? You know?
Yeah. So we don't know if this is going to be lauding them for their scholarship and their honesty, or whether they're going to be debunking. We do both on this show, so we're just going to dive right in and see what they say. I'll tell you, the only cheating that I did to look up this book was underneath where it says Mormons. Unfortunately, they spelled it right. You'd be surprised how many times they spell it wrong. But underneath Mormons, there were 3 references. They had the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, www.lds.org. So, okay, at least the official side of the church. That's good. Then they had www.moreman.org, official site for non-members, and it's spelled Mormon, but it's Moreman, M-A-N. Never heard of that website, but I thought, okay, that's interesting.
Was that like an early 2000s thing?
It's gotta be
what?
some
like.
Yeah, I don't know. Quaku could check it out. See, this is part of our deep dive. You just checking it out right now, right?
I think that they're gonna get a lot of stuff on us, like what is it, like worshiping Mormon. Just because we're called Mormons. I think that's one big thing.
Okay, well, let's not prejudge yet, because this is what made me buy the book, though, actually. Well, the reason why I bought the book is the third reference.
Figured it out, by the way.
Was, okay, you figured out what, brother?
Moreman.org.
Yeah, what is it?
The church bought it, and it goes directly to Light the World. JesusChrist.org. That's so smart. Yeah.
They totally bought it when the URL came
Bought out some troll from 1999. Like, hey, you want 10 grand? Sure. Give us Mormon. Okay.
By the way, I totally love it when the church just flexes with its checkbook. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've heard all these apocryphal stories that there's like 14 alcohol permits for Utah County. Surrounding BYU, but the church has effectively bought up like 12 of the 14. You know what I'm saying? And they just pay whatever $100,000 you have to pay for each alcohol permit because they don't want booze surrounding the campus.
Well, when I went to Hawaii, Hukilau Beach, it's like literally the town is owned by the church. It's like not owned by the church, but like most of it, like, because it's where the Laie temple is.
Yeah.
So, like, they bought the whole street and they put, like, all the, because most of Hawaii, like, in that area, all the landlines, they're all up in the air and it just doesn't look good. So they bought that area, the strip, like, the street, and they just put all of them, they spent money to put them all underground, and they made the street look beautiful. Then they bought, like, Hukilau Beach and made it so it closed, like, at sundown. And
okay,
so
we're not
like,
secessionist compound builders of beautiful utopias, we promise.
Mia from Stone 16 is calling me.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's
Married
funny.
Mia.
Oh.
I ain't answering that.
I
don't know what I did, but for a married woman to call you at 9:50 means you did something wrong.
Oh, I know what you did. You'll find out after.
Okay. So anyway, back to this. The third reference they have here, which I thought was very interesting, was Church of Christ, parentheses, temple lot, close parentheses.
Really?
Yeah, so I thought, whoa, this is going to be interesting if they're citing from temple lot Mormons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty crazy, right? So anyway, here, just flip over those pieces of paper that I put in front of you. And I just made a photocopy of chapter 18, which is the chapter that we got here. And I want to see what came out to you guys first. Tell me what your thoughts are of chapter 18 on Mormons. I will start. Are you ready? In this chapter, learn about the sacred texts of Mormons, including the Bible, the Book of Mormon, and the Doctrine and Covenants. So first off, I'm glad they spelled Doctrine and Covenants correctly.
And didn't say Doctrine of Covenants.
Yep, exactly.
That's a really good sign.
Yeah.
We can't get half the members to do that, right? Then it says, consider the importance of Joseph Smith Jr.'s revelations. Understand the importance of the Mormon concept of eternal progression. And then find out about unique Mormon observances like sealing in marriage and baptism of the dead.
Yeah.
Now, baptism for the dead is very different than baptism of the dead.
Yeah, I was not going to say.
Baptism of the dead involves going to a graveyard and...
Yeah. We're not necromancers that dig up bodies and dunk them.
Unless we were Catholic, then it's just the sprinklers in the graveyard work.
Yeah, or the catacombs. You know, the catacombs are leaking, right?
So the public clubhouse says, what did you put in this pool?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so we got our first little misnomer here, but it's small and it doesn't seem intentional, so we're going to keep going. I thought this was really interesting. I actually skipped the Joseph Smith Jr. thing, so tell me if there's anything funny that you find here. And I went straight to the Book of Mormon here, which on on page 213. And it says, so what's the Book of Mormon? The Book of Mormon contains a number of cross references to the Christian Bible. I don't know if I exactly say they're cross references, but maybe quotes from the what's considered the Old Testament, right? Like quotes from Malachi and Isaiah and a condensed version of Jesus' teaching in the Gospel of Matthew. He did indeed repeat the Beatitudes in his Sermon on the Mount when he came to talk to the Lamanites and the Nephites in the New World. Okay, then it says, the Lord's Prayer is there along with a command to practice the Eucharist.
Oh, for sacrament.
Yeah, what is the Eucharist? Isn't that the Catholic, those little things of bread?
It's the sacrament, but it's what they call it.
Okay, cool.
So is this guy a Catholic?
Well, Eucharist is technically that's the term for all of
general.
It. Yeah. So our sacrament is the Eucharist.
Yes.
Yeah. It's technically you can actually call it that, but it's just weird.
So we can call it the Eucharist.
Yeah, because
so this book is right, and us with our lifetime in the membership is wrong, and we need to start calling sacrament the Eucharist.
Well, that's what it was initially called. The Eucharist is just a sacrament of the Christian faith. We just decided to call it sacrament because that's the only rite of passage we have in our normal Sunday service. Everything else is very casual. So we don't have a number of sacraments like a lot of other churches do in their Sunday service. We just have one. So why call it Eucharist to differentiate from nothing, because it's just a sacrament.
Yeah.
Dang. Pretty good at this.
Dude, really? Is that like, that's not just Kwaku?
No, I mean, yeah, literally, it's called like, it's like a...
Yeah, that's the sacrament.
You ever heard of the 7 sacraments?
Yeah, I've heard of the 7 sacraments. And
So sacrament is just a term for any sort of ritual you do. We only have one on Sunday, though.
Okay, yeah, you're right. So when we call it sacrament, meaning since we only do one, we just assume that the sacrament is... So really, that's legit. We can start going... Literally.
Tell your kids. We're going to Eucharist meeting.
Dude, that's next Sunday.
A lot of Catholic converts call it that.
Dude, next Sunday, I am going to unironically from the pulpit, next time I have to bear my testimony, I will bear my testimony of the Holy Eucharist. You know what I'm saying? And I will wait until my stake president is there, at which point, when he
pretty sure that there's some kind of like connotations to the term Eucharist that include something about transubstantiation instead of consubstantiation, or one way or the other. So it might not be the best thing to do.
No, but remember, Protestants also call it the Eucharist. Some call it the Eucharist. So it's kind of it's one of those terms.
Is this one of those things where we can call it the Eucharist and just say that we do it better?
Sure, let's do it. By the way, I found their first flaw.
Oh, what is it, bro?
Before, I think Will has got to say something.
Every time you keep saying stake president, I keep thinking of my dad, and I'm like, wait, never mind.
Oh, no. He's the other stake president.
Yeah, it's just funny.
I'm totally just kidding. He's the other stake president I don't get along with.
He's going to watch this episode and be like, what?
Every time you say stake president, I think of it, and I'm like, oh, wait, he's in other state. You said it like
flexing.
5 times.
Quit flexing. Quit flexing, Will. All right, No, I'm just kidding. He will say, dang it. My freaking nephew moved out before I could excommunicate him. You know what I'm saying? Like, punk. He's not in my stewardship anymore. So what's the first flaw that you found, bro?
Okay, so in the Joseph Smith Jr. section leading up to the Book of Mormon.
Okay, hit it.
It is technically correct on this, but it kind of implies something that is wrong.
Okay.
It says the transcribers, Martin and Emma Harris. So it's Emma Smith was his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So Martin Harris and then Emma Hale, his wife, never actually saw the plates during translation, and the angel Moroni eventually took the plates away along with the Urim and Thummim. It doesn't mention the witnesses.
And this is what's so interesting. We are doing a deep dive into the happiness letter here sometime soon. Mm-hmm. All right? Which is oftentimes cited by anti-Mormons and those that hate us with extreme fervor. Yet it's minor details that reveal our position that it's a John C. Bennett forgery. Not a Mark Hoffman forgery of modern times, but a John C. Bennett forgery of olden times, 200 years ago. And it's only on very minor details, like the difference between like Emma Smith and Emma Harris.
Emma Hale, yeah.
Or Emma Hale, that a lot of these things actually rest. And it's amazing how I don't get the feeling thus far that the person that wrote this book and edited it, Mr. Jeffrey B. Webb, was at all ill-intentioned. However, I've noticed some already big enough errors that if I were an ill-intentioned person picking up this book, especially if it were 200 years old, and I was trying to look up crap on the church, for example, with the happiness letter, it's amazing how some of these details get just messed up even when you don't want them to. Like, look at this, for example.
Yeah, like it's so final that nobody saw the plates, right? When we have at the very beginning of the Book of Mormon, the testimony of the 3 witnesses, the testimony of the 8 witnesses.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And then I noticed later on, we'll get to it, but I'll just use it right now. In the heading west section, I think it's great that he's trying to address the history of the Mormon pioneers heading west. And I don't sense this is ill-intentioned, but he said something pretty interesting. He said the Mormon Agira or exodus from Palmyra to Utah Territory with stops at Kirtland, Ohio, Independence, Missouri, and Nauvoo, Illinois is nothing short of, okay, I don't know if I'd say being massacred and going to war with the U.S. government and the mob simultaneously over a 2,000-mile trek is exactly stops like on Route 66. You know what I'm saying? But I do appreciate that he calls it remarkable. And I've never heard the term the Mormon Agira. Do you see that on page 214?
Yeah,
Kwaku?
I've also never
I'm looking
heard
at it. Huh.
Yeah.
Do you know what he's talking about?
No.
It sounds kind of like the Hajj. Like, I wonder if it's related to that. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, this one's kind of crazy. So, and the other thing that I thought was a little bit weird here is, do you notice on page 214 where it says caution, lo and behold?
Yeah. So it's related to the Hajj. It's Muhammad's departure from Mecca to Medina in AD 622.
Ooh,
so it's comparing us to Islam in this moment.
I just learned about that in school. So.
Rock on.
Yeah, I'm from Texas. They did not teach us that. You think we're going to tell you about the Muslims? I don't care where they walk.
Yeah. Was it that bad, really? It wasn't even...
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow, that's funny, man.
Texas has changed even a lot in the last couple of years, but when I was growing up there, it was...
Yeah, you guys got Beto now. You know what I'm saying?
No, we don't.
He lost again.
True.
They lost.
Yeah, he
Third
lost
time in a
again.
row, baby.
Dang, bummer. All right.
Yeah.
Sad, because he's a pretty handsome guy. It's like, geez.
Yeah, and he could ride a skateboard. Like, I'd like to see a skateboard ridden
Honestly,
through the
he was in
halls of-
Texas. If he was in anywhere else, he probably would have won. But
in
Texans,
Utah, I mean, not in Utah, in California, he'd be Gavin Newsom 2.0 and he'd be our governor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought this one was kind of interesting too. That it said, lo and behold, caution. And it seems like they're trying to warn people against misinformation. And it says, polygamy or plural marriage has never been officially sanctioned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Oh, interesting.
Critics say that Smith practiced it in secret and his converts merely followed suit. The population includes Brigham Young, a notorious polygamist who was sealed to 56 different women and had 57 children by 16 of his wives. Apparently 10 divorced him as well. The LDS president advised against the practice in 1890, but the church continues to deal with popular associations between LDS and Mormon extremists. In 2002, Mormons winced when Tom Green made national news for his conviction on charges of bigamy and things we cannot mention on YouTube. Green lived openly with 5 wives and 29 children in a compound near Nephi, Utah. Okay, I've never heard of this Green guy. And I don't think they're talking about mainstream faith here.
Also, can I just say, if you ever find yourself in a compound in Nephi, Utah, you need to get the freak out of there.
Yes, run. Run
How about
fast.
if you find yourself in a compound? You know what I'm saying? Like, actually, I don't know. I'd build a family compound if I had enough money.
Well, so did Tom Green.
Yeah, that sounds like an awful lot.
Just a different family, different kind of family, right?
Wait,
So how
what's
is this?
compound again?
It's like a
You are
giant
so
piece of
cute.
land with like a couple houses that are kind
Okay,
of barricaded
that's-
off.
Like
That's what
generally a
That's what I
communal
would think.
thing.
Like
Yeah.
a barricaded off, like
They're ready
area.
to fight, is what they are.
It's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
we have to do
Exactly.
against the Gaddy Aunt Robert. I mean, the woke scolds that hate us. You know what I'm saying? So compounds are a good thing, Will the Thrill.
Oh my
You know what I'm
gosh.
saying? Compounds are a good
They
thing.
just don't look good to the outside world.
Yeah.
So I
Only
think
if the outside world can see over the perimeter wall and make it past the perimeter fence can they have an opinion. So just make sure that you got a tall perimeter wall and a long perimeter fence. All right, that's all I
Hey,
can
don't
say.
get back to the apocalypse video, okay?
Yeah.
Keep going.
So what about this opening sentence though? Polygamy or plural marriage has never been officially sanctioned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You're the historian here. How do we digest that while doing justice to the history of the 1800s?
well, it was actually like definitely officially sanctioned by the Church of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I actually don't think it was, because there was never any proclamation for polygamy, only a proclamation ending it. And when polygamy was being practiced, you had apostles who openly disagreed. So there was never a unanimous body of the church saying we are now pro-polygamy. It was always a little murky.
I feel like the Temple Lot trials, though, would say that it was officially sanctioned by the church, right? Because they used Joseph Smith practicing polygamy as like the basis for proving that the church was
but we lost
the right one. But we won on appeal.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So we won in the end, man.
We won in the end in a higher court.
Wait, so
but yes, however, I wouldn't say that counts as an official sanction. Like, I'm looking for hey,
we're all polygamous now.
Boom, are we in? Everyone's in. Cool. Write it in. Send it out to the world. We never had that as loud as we had the end.
I know
right?
they were pretty straightforward about their position in Utah. They were very clear that they were polygamist after a while, and we still got plenty of immigrants coming in because of it.
But was there the official like
a proclamation on the family?
Well, I think that's probably what this guy was looking for.
Probably, maybe you're right.
And so
because
we did it. I'm not denying. I'm just saying I think that.
But because there's not that level of an official declaration of it.
Yeah, like if you're an outsider and you're like, okay, found the 1978 thing. That's the official end of this. I can't find the official, hey, we have where is it? I guess they never officially did it. I can see this. Orson Pratt got mad and this guy left. All right, okay, I guess they didn't officially do it. They just kind of started to do it.
Yeah.
So
it's a forgivable way to phrase it.
Yeah.
Did they make a rule to stop it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Official declaration.
I kind of agree with you. And one reason logically is I don't know why they would make a rule with it if it didn't happen. See, if it didn't...
Oh, no, I think it happened. It happened.
Okay.
I'm just saying I don't think there was I don't think there was an official proclamation for the church saying we are practicing polygamy, especially because they were already killing us.
Well, isn't that Doctrine and Covenants 138 or 132?
Yeah. It was not that in
Oh, are you going Michelle Stone on us, dog?
I have 10 children. No.
So I think DNC 132, part of the reason that DNC 132, Cardon, is maybe not the best example is because it's more about eternal...
rights by Brigham Young.
But it is more about eternal marriage than just polygamy in general.
Uh-huh.
And so, there's something to be said there for it not necessarily being an official sanction of polygamy by the church.
And I'm not,
even though it outlines how polygamy would be done.
I'm also not an expert in 132 because I know now it's a huge debate among the LDS bloggers and everything, and they're gonna cancel me because I just made a funny voice and yelled that Brigham Young thing. But what's the so half of the people don't think it was real or what? What's the deal with that? Because now it's always let me tell you the lowdown on section 132.
There are people who are mad because they say that Doctrine and Covenants section 132 was written down by William Clayton. It was read by Hiram Smith to people, but it was not necessarily as well known by the time Joseph and Hiram had died. And so there's debate, and people try to say, well, hey, William Clayton was lying. It is in his handwriting, but he was lying. He did it later to help support what Brigham Young wanted them to do, right? So that's where people are like, hey, it's questionable because we don't have it in this Doctrine and Covenants earlier. We don't have earlier records of it that we would like.
By the way, you bring up a good point that just reinforces something I constantly say to those that always want to scold Joseph Smith or the early founding fathers of the faith and everything. They're always saying oh, well, so-and-so wasn't forthcoming, or else, oh, this wasn't documented and wasn't as well known and this and that. And part of me just wants to say, yeah, because you anti-Mormon mobsters were so busy slaughtering and killing and destroying the presses of and burning the books of and hunting down the children of the authors of every written word, chapel, or Mormon business you could get a hold of. Had you not been constantly trying to kill the guy, he might have had a chance to clarify one or two positions. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of this stuff gets muddy, not because of any kind of non-forthrightness from Joseph Smith, but because honestly, persecution from without, not corruption within, persecution from without. So, shall we continue? Should we keep going? Anything else you noticed? Or I got a couple that I found. Mm-hmm. You got any, or should I just keep going?
Keep going.
Okay, cool. So I thought it was kind of interesting. You got the Eucharist and then you got the Hegira. We covered the polygamy thing, but look at this. Everybody said amen on 215. It's that little box on the side. And it says, Mormon vegetarians?
There it is.
There it is. Boom, shakalaka. It says, the word of wisdom, a revelation from Joseph Smith Jr. in 1833, outlined a dietary code for LDS members. It encouraged the consumption of vegetables, breads, and fruits, and forbade alcohol, tobacco, coffee, and tea. According to some Mormon interpretations of the word of wisdom and other doctrine and covenants provisions, eating meat is also discouraged. So KK in the gate. KK.
Yeah, she's represented.
Our Mormon vegan friend here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? She can kind of commiserate with homeboy here.
Okay.
Jeffrey B. Webb and say, hey, I got one. I can take it one step farther, Jeffrey. By the way, check her book out. If you haven't read it yet, check it out. She does a lot to sponsor the program, so thank you. Will.
I'm sorry, if it says it in the Doctrine and Covenants or in the Word of Wisdom, I don't even care. I will never stop barbecuing, smoking, any sort of meat. I will eat it all day. I don't care what it says. That might be the one rule that just won't stop me.
Will's just sitting there waiting for times of famine, like, come on.
This is wrong.
I need a brisket.
Well, it does say to eat meat sparingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Well, so spare. No, it means spare ribs, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Well, that's where KK did bring up the really interesting point that sparingly, she quoted, I believe it was Hugh Nibley, saying sparingly meant in the adjective form of sparing the life of unnecessary death for tasty meat. So eating meat sparingly was like a spiritual kind of act. Hey, it holds water. It holds water better than some interpretations of the Doctrine and Covenants do. You know what I'm saying? So just in this thread of the Word of Wisdom, though, right? What? Go to page 218 and on religious practices. What? Yeah.
As you're pulling that up, I just want to point out one other thing. I think this is really good evidence that this guy was doing his best to be as neutral as possible in his presentation. Yeah. He says things like, Smith allegedly began practicing polygamy as well, marrying some 49 different women, according to some sources. I think when he's couching this in the term of Smith allegedly did this, he's like, hey, I get polygamy's freaky and weird, so I'm going to let these Mormons have their prophet be distanced from it a little bit by saying allegedly.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's the attitude I get from his writing right here.
Okay. Yeah, attitude-wise, I definitely don't sense malice. I'm finding some really funny stuff, though, like some errors. It's amazing how pervasive this is in the culture and the zeitgeist. I want to do a video of where this came from. Because if you go on to page 218, under religious practices, it says some great stuff, like to get saved, you have to be obedient to the laws and ordinances of the church. Well, not the church, but of Jesus Christ, or of God. What Mormons call enduring to the end, which, yes, that's primary lesson number 3. You know what I'm saying? I think it's hilarious where it says, these include dietary restrictions like avoidance of tobacco and alcohol, check, and double check, but also caffeinated beverages like tea, coffee, and Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
As we're literally pounding our Red Bulls. You know what I'm saying?
Dr.
Red
Pepper.
Bull is okay, but coffee is verboten. Okay?
Well, to be fair, the no caffeine thing was not a
BYU.
Rule. But yeah, the fact that you couldn't have it on BYU camp, well, they didn't serve it on BYU campus was definitely, I can see how people thought
but
that.
He straight up calls out the name brand Coca-Cola here. You know what I'm saying? It says you can't have tea, coffee, and Coca-Cola.
That means he's probably just from the South. Right?
Oh, is he like those people that call it pop?
Yeah, well, there's places in the South where they just call all soda Coke, right? Is that the South or is that an Eastern thing?
Yeah. Tell us about the South, bro.
Well, Texas is the West South. We're
you're
the Southwestern
your own
Conference.
country.
We're not But here's the other thing though. Depending on if this is written in the early 2000s, which is only a couple websites around that we're talking if the third blog on Google said Mormons can't drink Coca-Cola and he's doing all of his research in 2001, you know what I'm saying?
He got as close as we can expect, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's doing what
in fact, he did a pretty good job for what the weird,
I've actually.
Hell, moreman.org was the website back then.
Yeah, like. Also, if you don't think I'm serious about the meat thing, just look at my lock screen on my phone.
Oh, we never questioned whether
wait. Let me hold it for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to let it autofocus.
Oh, it's off. You
now it's
Wait.
off. Oh, we're not doing the best job of this. It's like when you grab your mom's phone because she's got.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Autofocus.
Bring it back.
What is it? What is it? What is it? You're just
Why
gonna
won't
have
it-
to tell
Why won't
us.
it pick us?
You're just gonna have to tell us what it is, bro. What is
There
it?
Stop eating
Animals without barbecue sauce. That is.
Or would you eat a squirrel?
Yeah. Well, actually, I have before.
What?
Wait, what?
Not only would he
Was
I
that?
can and I have.
Wait, what?
Okay, so long story. So here's the thing. My neighbor, so he's from Louisiana, okay? And he likes to go out at night with his .22, and he shoots some squirrels in our neighborhood, like our small neighborhood. And he goes out, and it's like, he just shoots, in the middle of the night, you'll just hear, "Too, too." And we found like dead possums in our backyard.
Oh wow.
Because like they would shoot them and then they would fall into our backyard. But I had some of it one time because I was with my neighbor that I'm really good friends with. Like he's a lot older than me, but I'm really good friends with him. And then the guy came over and asked him if he wanted to try this, and it was some squirrel. And so he'll kill it and he'll boil it. And
boiled squirrel? Okay, boiled squirrel sounds kind of gross.
No. So he boils it to get like all the bad stuff out of it, and then I'm guessing he puts in instant pot, cooks up the shanks, and then puts it.
The squirrel shanks.
I've watched many videos on this.
When
This is
you're
what I
wearing
watch,
a
actually,
fur-lined plaid jacket with a Cabela's hat on, talking about how you ate
1776 shirt on also.
talking about how you ate boiled squirrel with a guy from Louisiana. I
had some experiences.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
But I will say all the hunter meat people. Who has eaten a cougar? Because the minute you shoot, kill, and eat a cougar, I will respect every word you ever say. But I've never met anyone who's shot, killed, and ate a cougar.
I don't know if I would respect them for shooting, killing, and eating a cougar, but if they did it with a spear, I would for sure.
Hand-to-hand combat with a cougar, and you eat it.
Yep. Then you got my respect.
Yeah. David right there. That's who it is.
Yeah.
Well, he could have lied.
Okay, so here's some funny things that I think aren't doctrinal, but culturally they got right. It's really funny. Some may wonder, why do Mormons have such large families? Mormons tend to have large families at a time when the average family size is shrinking in the United States. It's true. Woke leftism has tanked the birth rate. Many factors account for this, including religious belief. The LDS teaches, so I think I meant to say LDS Church, teaches that families can be together forever through a sealing ordinance performed in the temple, which is true, which gives earthly families a cosmic significance. Look, I just think that's cool. A cosmic significance.
I may not know what it means, but
it just sounds cool. You know? It sounds like an Enya album if she were to come out with another album 20 years later.
Don't know who that is.
Enya?
It's like the chick from Frozen.
No, Irish singer.
Goes, where the day blows, only time. You know that song?
Irish music all sounds like a fairy hymn to me, no matter who is singing it.
That's exactly what this sounds like.
Dude, it's like
the gullies of the hills and the Hoonenshire. What?
It's maybe the boomer part of Cardon.
So it says totally boomer. So it says, which gives earthly families a cosmic significance, and the LDS and the LDS Church promotes a literal interpretation of God's command to Adam to be fruitful and multiply. You know, that one's not bad, dude. That one's not bad. And I thought it was kind of funny. The other part that I thought was pretty hilarious is after getting through all of that and dedicating, like, I'm not kidding you, almost 10 pages to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. On page 220, Will the Thrill, what does it say at the bottom of 220 part 5? What's that big bold heading right there? What does it say, my man?
The other Mormons.
Yeah, just the other Mormons.
Like,
Pause. Cardon Ryder sleeping on the ground.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. He just falls asleep anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of funny,
The
huh?
snoring's gone. We're okay.
Oh, if he starts snoring loud enough to ruin the but hey, that's what happens when you cart your son into the studio, right? So anyway, dude, I thought like the other Mormon sect literally just got othered. You know what I'm saying? Like the other ones were just gonna throw temple lot, that's all in there.
Here's an interesting thing that they did include. They talk about how on page 220, just a little bit higher, about how the communion that Mormons have is how does it say it? To the Mormons, communion has no supernatural dimensions, as is the case with Roman Catholic practices. Since the rite is merely commemorative, Mormons use water instead of wine to symbolize the blood of Jesus Christ. Also, Mormons don't use professional clergymen, so they fill the balance of their servants with personal testimonies from members of the congregation as the work of God in their lives. So the part that stood out to me there is like no supernatural dimensions to the sacrament.
Okay,
It says it's purely commemorative, which, I mean, maybe that's how he interprets the sacrament prayers, saying we do this in remembrance of the blood of thy son.
Yeah. Can I tell you the last thing I noticed before we finish here? Unless you guys have something. You got anything else, Kwaku, you thought was funny?
Oh, I'm still looking through it. So
okay, we'll keep looking through it. I'll give you this one. This is the last one I'll point out that I thought was like really, really, really funny. Okay. 2 other unique practices bear mentioning, and this is on page 220, paragraph 2. Mormons are taught to stockpile a year's worth of food and other supplies in case of emergencies. Church leaders offer advice on what sorts of items Mormon families ought to keep in stock. Also, Mormons stress the importance of tithing and giving to the church, which is illustrated by the expectations of 2 years of full-time missionary work for young people. Some 60,000 missionaries are at work at any given time. Look, I don't know if stockpile is the word that I would use. However, I am the guy that previously in this podcast did extol the virtues of compound building. So, you know.
Oh, yeah. No. He's totally right.
It's stockpiling.
Yeah.
It's like people go, the temple is not secret, it's sacred. No, we're secrets.
Yeah, there's secrets.
Yeah.
You know what
They're
I'm saying?
sacred secrets.
In fact, they say
The best
these are
kind of
secrets, by the way. Don't tell anyone. Like, these are secrets.
You know?
Like
And those secrets get you into heaven. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
okay, I thought that was pretty funny. The word like stockpiling. I was like, oh, that's funny, dude.
Hit the nail on the head, though. This guy did a pretty good job.
Yeah, dude.
Actually,
I
look
was
at this
gonna
here
say-
in 221.
Oh, hit it. What's it say?
One of these, the Community of Christ, which used to be called the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, operates out of its headquarters in Independence, Missouri. The Community of Christ initially formed over questions of succession following Joseph Smith Jr.'s death. In fact, other Mormon denominations like the Bickertonites and Strengites also formed out of the confusion as to who would succeed Smith as prophet, seer, and revelator for the Latter-day Saints. And he says they've moved.
Bickertonites.
Says they moved closer to the conventional Protestant ideas about the nature of God and salvation.
Man, this must be old because I don't know who the frick that
This is good. This is like
Well, you don't know who is.
the Bickertonites or
Bickertonites
Strengites.
and the Stringites. Like, who?
Yeah, dude, that's like
And this-
your average LDS person doesn't
This
know
last
that.
one here, this is why you know the guy was actually being like not a jerk, because he says to achieve the highest state of exaltation in the hereafter, a Mormon believer must have faith in Jesus, get baptized, and observe certain ordinances like sealing and endowment. The antis never include the have faith in Jesus.
And,
made
and
that
neither
first.
do the angry evangelicals.
I know, so he
So
literally
this
was
isn't
like,
an anti-dude. This is someone doing their best to
That's
just
kinda
explain
cool.
it.
Yeah. Now, really fast before we go, what's the Reader's Digest version of the Strengites and the Bickertonites? You want me to do it or you want to do it, Brad? You want to do it, Kwaku? Who wants to do it? We got
Hit
to
it.
educate our buddy.
Go.
I don't know about James Strang. He had like another revelation. An angel told him and
Oh,
stuff. And he had a
no.
bunch of other-
Actually, I got to tell you,
He had a letter.
the Strengites are the only ones that I think kind of have a legitimate succession claim, because the problem with the RLDS church is Joseph Smith never said this is going to be a blood succession. You know, it's the kingdom of God, not the kingdom of the Smith family. All right. So when they wanted to say, oh, it should be Joseph Smith's son, they were kind of defaulting to what was common thoughts in the day. Don't forget that George Washington literally had to tell the people, I will not be king. That's not the purpose of the American Revolution, to get rid of one king and just accept another. No, we want to get rid of one king and then accept freedom and individualism, dare I say, libertarianism, because we got, a libertarian in the room right now. So, no joke, it was common back then that people thought, oh, it should be a blood succession. But the truth is, the only people besides obviously what became the church and what now others call the Brighamite Church or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This one's crazy. Have you read the letter, Kwaku?
To James Strang?
James Strang had a letter from Joseph Smith in which Joseph Smith was commissioning him to go up to, like, back then it was like northern Nauvoo. He ended up in Michigan or whatever, but to go up there and to be in charge of this stake in Zion. And back then, there were not multiple stakes. There was only one stake in Zion. They just started dividing people up into wards. And as we know, multiple wards comprise multiple stakes. And in one large populous city, you might have 4 or 5 stakes. But back then, the church was small enough that it was all technically one stake. So when Joseph Smith said, "You shall be my successor to be the leader," not my successor, but you will hold my prophetic responsibility of leading this stake in Zion, and the entire church really only comprises one stake. The question is, was Joseph Smith telling him to take a group up there and he would be in charge of it? Or was that a succession document?
What Strangite told you this?
Well, no, I've read a lot into it. There's the Wikipedia article, which never lies. Wikipedia never lies. Okay.
No, but also it gets way cooler because he's also practicing polygamy, becomes king of Beaver Island.
Oh, yeah, no, he took it and ran with it.
It goes wild.
Yeah, he made his own plates. Did you know that?
Yeah. And dug underneath down to like under a tree and then like hid them there and then had some people dig down to find them. And then he like translated them. It's a really interesting story. With the
there's
Strangites.
a book called The King of Beaver Island.
Yeah.
That tells the story of the Strangites.
I've been called that before.
By the way, it was the only other. Hey, The King of Beaver Island is actually a book that I saw in the library when I was looking. I just looked up Mormons. Just one day I was in the library with my kids and I thought, it'd be funny to look up Mormons. They didn't even have a copy of Book of Mormon. They had one called The American Crucifixion. It was about the murder of Joseph Smith. I don't know if it was anti-Mormon or pro-Mormon or whatever. But then they had a strange book that said The King of Beaver Island. And it was a satirical historical documentary on James Strang. And it was written against James Strang by an ex-Strangite. And I thought, so anti-Mormon literature. The Strangites got it too.
Yeah.
You know, they got antis too.
And to be fair, I feel like the Strangite position was not a bad one.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was an interesting take.
They're the only ones that their origin story, I don't believe in everything James Strang did afterwards, but they're the only ones where like their origin story and claim to succession, I think kind of like, okay. And that's also why they're the only ones.
Oh, well, no, go ahead.
I was going to say they're the only ones that really lasted outside of the RLDS church.
The Bickertonites stuck around for a while. They're still around.
Yeah,
there's still Bickertonites out there. They don't like being called Bickertonites, don't they?
I've never met one of these people.
So the Bickertonites are the ones that followed Sidney Rigdon, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
No, I've never met one.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad did on his mission in Michigan. And here's one last cool story. Is my father and I ran a structural pest control company for a long time, right? And one of our customers was a Seventh-day Adventist. And we found out that he was actually a pastor of the local congregation. He was in charge of it. And they had a beautiful big old building built in the 1920s. The lot was dated back to the 1920s. And it had termites and they needed a fumigation. But they'd miscalculated the cost of a fumigation and they'd only fundraised half of the money. And so what had happened was I went home and I told my dad, I said, this is a huge fumigation. And they only have half the cash. Like it would barely cover it at cost. And my dad laughed. And he said, you know what, let's do it. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, I'm curious, why'd you say like yes to this so fast? And why'd you giggle before you said yes, right? And he told me, he said, dude, the SDAs, when a huge tornado came through our town in 1978, it ripped through Main Street, destroyed a bunch of members' houses, and then ripped apart the chapel before going out of town. And we had to find a new place to meet for a while. Okay. And everybody else wanted to charge us. He's like, we asked the Jewish synagogue because they don't meet on Sundays, you know, and they wanted some big fee. We asked the schools, the Catholics, the this and that, and they all wanted a big fee. But the SDA stepped up and said, hey, you can use our chapel for your holy day when it's not our holy day, as long as you clean up afterwards. And so for like 8 or 9 months until they fixed their church, the SDAs let them use their chapel as long as they cleaned up. And he was like, it was a huge relief for us. So we could put the money towards rebuilding our chapel, because that's how they did it back in the day. Like, I go to a chapel that was built in 1962, and it was made with donations from local members, not centralized financial leadership of the church. And so he was kind of happy that they'd paid it forward. So 40 years later, they saved probably about $40,000 on a fumigation just by being nice. So paying it forward works, ladies and gentlemen. It just sometimes takes 40 years for you to get it back, right? You know what I'm saying? So the SDA is kind of closely related to Mormonism, but the Strangites, what's funny is he bumped into the Strangites in his mission as well, because he served in Michigan.
Yeah.
He would bump into Strangites.
In Voree.
You know, close to Voree. It was on the western side. And there's a Strangite congregation here in Los Angeles that meets in Simi Valley.
Really?
Yeah. We could actually go to it. And from what I understand, they still got about like 500, 600 members that show up. Yeah. They kind of combine with the RLDS Church or the Community of Christ now a lot.
Oh, really?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like they'll share facilities or something like that. I can't remember what the combination is, but they kind of team up, because there is a little bit of a mutual disdain for the Brighamite Church. Like, that's one thing that all of them hold in common, is like, yeah, you know, we like you, you're cool, we share the common ancestry, but you are a little bit Samaritan. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is that.
That's funny.
Okay, cool. So what's our general takeaway? To me, this seemed like he was doing a really good job trying to be even-handed. Mm-hmm. There were errors, but there were not errors of malice.
Yep.
And they're really funny. They're probably worth correcting, so we don't like solidify John C. Bennett errors. You know what I'm saying?
But I think it's like pretty much written to general Christians. And so it uses some vocabulary that would be more understood by a general Christian. It's probably a super great thing for a missionary to read before they go out on their mission.
Honestly, I'm just looking at this. Like, I haven't been handed a scanned chapter of a book with one staple in years.
Boomer. Boomer.
Yeah.
Boomer. Well, how else are we going to analyze it all together? I can't buy 4
No,
books.
this brings me back to like
There's
school,
only
like
one
high
for
school.
I
sale.
see this much too often.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
School's
Okay, cool.
ridiculous. You don't need it.
So let us know. Let us know what you guys think we missed, if we missed anything. But all together, thumbnail. This book was cool. Check it out. Let us know what you guys thought about it. This is Midnight Strike Through Mormons. We'll see you guys in the next program. Hey guys, Cardon Ellis here. I am the creator of Midnight Mormons, and first I'd like to say thank you for watching this video. We know in an attention economy, there's all kinds of podcasts and shows you could be keeping up with, and you chose to be here with us. That means a lot. Thank you. If you haven't had a chance yet, please consider contributing to the channel through Venmo. If you haven't liked, shared, or subscribed yet, please do all of the above. And 3, right now we're actually taking sponsors for the program. If you have a product or you have a company that you would like to publicize, please reach out via the website and we will have that conversation. Again, we know there's all kinds of programs out there that you could be listening to or you could be watching, but you chose to be here with us. For that, we are grateful. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.